Irish police now saying the prime suspect, who is an alleged asylum seeker, likely fled the country to Turkey within hours of killing 43-year-old Jamey Carney. A source telling the Irish Sun that, quote, Turkey is a place that is very easy to disappear from, so it was a very calculated move. He has contacts there and he's from Jordan, so it meant that he did not need a visa. There are fears that he will not be caught now.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So there's been a major breakthrough in the case of Jamey Carney. An arrest has been made in Jordan. So in case you are unaware, Jamey Carney was an American woman who moved to Ireland. She was living in Killarney, and last week her body was found in her home. It was discovered by her 13-year-old daughter.
Hey, Bill, well, you know, the investigation into the murder of American mom Jamey Carney, living in Ireland, has become an international manhunt. And police believe the person of interest took off and reportedly had a 12-hour head start. The Irish Times says the beaten body of the 43-year-old and native of Westchester County, New York, was found in her rented house on Tuesday. That it happened in the town of Killarney in the southwest of Ireland. Reports say Carney had moved to the country about 5 years ago and was living there with her teenage daughter. Now, the Irish police are not releasing the results of an autopsy and have not yet released the identity of the person of interest. But the Irish Independent reports that the man is a Jordanian national who'd been living in Ireland for 2 years, but had strong ties to Syria and Turkey. It has also been reported that he and Carney were in a relationship in recent months. Police confirmed that the person of interest left the area in the early hours of Tuesday morning before Carney's body was discovered. In a statement to Fox, the mayor of Killarney says the tragic incident has cast a dark cloud over the community. The U.S. State Department also offering their condolences and says they are providing assistance to her family.
So a really tragic story, and it's believed that she met this man at a pro-Palestine protest. She was in a relationship with him.
We can now reveal the extent of the relationship between Miss Carney and Mr. Al-Saqar. The two were in a committed relationship for the last number of months, routinely posting photos and videos together as they spoke of their love. In particular, Mr. Al-Saqar earlier this year posted a video of the pair and referred to his girlfriend as his bride and his princess. Miss Carney is seen in the video displaying a ring on her finger. Other posts reveal that the pair went to the Cure concert in Dublin's Marley Park in June and that they celebrated the 4th of July together. He also frequently posted on her Facebook page, responding to photos of them together, writing in recent days, "I love you so much," and referring to a photograph of her and her daughter as "my beautiful family." In her last post to Instagram, Miss Carney and Al-Saqar posted in front of a New York backdrop as she wished her followers a happy 4th of July. A week ago, she posted pictures of them together soaking up in the Irish sun on the 2nd of July. And she also posted a picture of Al-Saqar with her daughter and her dog. Miss Carney's devastated mother and sister have now travelled to Ireland from the US. They are trying to arrange her funeral, and they are also liaising with Gardaí as they try to come to terms with this unimaginable loss.
Now, when this story first broke, it was absolutely baffling. There were no photos of the guy. They didn't even name him. Yet they were telling us that there was an international manhunt. They said that he may have gone to Turkey, that he had links in France, Syria, all of this information, but they never even released the guy's photo. It was so ridiculous. And of course, it's to be believed that, you know, because this is a contentious issue in Ireland, immigration, the borders being open, people are worried about, you know, the implications of that, especially when it comes to safety, when it comes to crime.
Well, first of all, yeah, may I say my sympathy to anyone that knew Jamey Carney, her family, her friends. It's an awful story. She moved to Ireland in 2021. She was found beaten and suffocated in her own home. It is. I mean, there's so many factors at play here, Emily, and not least obviously the international manhunt, Interpol, Europol. No one really, as you touched on there, sounding hugely confident they're going to be able to get this guy back. And then obviously that's before we get to the questions of what on earth he was doing in Ireland in the first place. But this is a sort of story that really does chime with a public that is ultimately utterly fed up with reading and hearing about these stories on a near daily basis, not just in Ireland and Northern Ireland. We saw those horrific scenes in Belfast in Northern Ireland around a month ago of an attempted beheading on the streets of Belfast that led to unrest, but across the United Kingdom as well. It's day in, day out now that, again, before you even, you know, as soon as you open a newspaper or you hear a report, you just know part 2 of that story is going to be they are a migrant or an asylum seeker. And the statistics speak for themselves. The Centre for Migration Control, a think tank in the United Kingdom, reporting that 40% of sexual attacks in London last year were committed by a foreign national, or that Eritreans or Afghans are far, far more likely to be convicted for sex crimes than a British or an Irish person. So it's just a sort of crashing, awful sense of inevitability now around these stories that seem to happen on a near daily basis.
But the main concern was that this guy had fled the country.
They believe he got a bus from Killarney at around 3:30 a.m. on Tuesday to Dublin. From there he went to the airport, and at around 10:30 a.m. he got a flight from Dublin airport to Istanbul in Turkey. Now what that means is that even before Gardaí were made aware of the death of Miss Carney, they were first contacted at around 1:30 p.m. Even before that, the man had not only left Killarney but was out of the country. So this is a very serious problem for Gardaí. They can try to extradite this man if they find him in Turkey. Ireland has an extradition treaty with Turkey. The problem is finding him. He could just be in the wind, and also he could go from Turkey to his home country, which is another Middle Eastern country. That country does not have recognised extradition treaty with Ireland, but there are agreements and there are ways of getting this man back, but it is extremely difficult, and you can only extradite a person if there are charges against them. You cannot extradite a person for questioning. So this is a headache for Gardaí.
Is it going to be easy, to extradite him back to Ireland to face, charges, to face trial, eventually to face justice that Jamey's family and her 13-year-old daughter deserve in the very least? Her family have gone to Ireland now. I believe they're in Ireland and are making arrangements. And her sister released a statement paying tribute to Jamey. She said, "My name is Devon Burnett. From New York, my sister Jamey Noel Carney was murdered in Killarney, Kerry, Ireland on Tuesday, July 7, 2026. She is survived by her brilliant 13-year-old daughter. Jamey was an insanely caring human being who dedicated so much of herself, her energy, and her time to fighting for the rights of others. We grew up in New York, but she spent much of her best years with her daughter in the states of Bergen County, New Jersey. But their true home, where they both truly felt they belonged, was the beautiful town of Killarney. My mother and I travelled within a day of hearing the news of the untimely death of my sister, and are currently here, working with Killarney Garda and social services to make sure my niece can stay in the land she loves, especially while grieving this tragic loss." And there has been a GoFundMe set up. I will leave the link below. It's absolutely tragic, and I'm glad that this person is now detained in Jordan. And, I wasn't optimistic when the news first broke about them finding this person, because he could have been anywhere. All these different countries that they named, he could have been absolutely anywhere. I'm actually surprised he went back to Jordan because, clearly that's where they're going to look for him. But maybe he didn't have resources to be traveling all over the world trying to evade justice. The people of Killarney deserve justice too. It has rocked the community. This is a very nice community, and this has completely shattered the community there. Jamey was very much a part of the community. She worked in healthcare, and she was involved in, local activities.
Every death in violent circumstances is a tragedy, but I think some resonate at a greater level simply because of the fallout. And here you have a beautiful young woman, as I said, beautiful on the inside and the outside, who was a devoted mother. Her life revolved around her teenage daughter. How many people in Killarney have commented on the fact that Jamey Carney, her world was her daughter, and that she would socialise with her daughter, she would take her daughter to sporting events. And I think it's hit home to people the consequences of this action, that here's a little girl who has lost her mother, here's a family that suffered a bereavement last year and are now facing into every family's worst nightmare. And what makes it even worse is that here's someone from the United States who fell in love with Ireland. Ireland became their adopted home. Killarney is perceived as an incredibly safe and welcoming place to live, and yet she met her death in such violent circumstances. And I think the community is doing its best to rally around. There are family members travelling from the US to Killarney to support this teenage girl. The friends in Killarney of Jamey Carney have done everything that they possibly can. I know sports groups, women's groups, community associations, everybody is deeply concerned to do everything that they possibly can to show solidarity with this family who are going through the worst possible nightmare.
The Gardaí believe a man arrested in Jordan is Ahmad Al-Saqar, the boyfriend of murdered American woman Jamey Carney, who they consider the prime suspect in her killing. The Irish Times understands that the Garda has requested assistance and information from a number of other police forces as part of the murder investigation. However, they have not made any request to the Jordanians or any other police force for the arrest of the person of interest in the case. Al-Saqar, the prime suspect, who is believed to be from Jordan, fled Ireland for Turkey immediately after the killing and before the woman's body was discovered in her Killarney Co-Kerry home. Sources said they strongly suspected the man detained in Jordan is the same person being sought by detectives in Kerry over the murder, but they were unable to comment on why he had been arrested. No arrest has been requested by Ireland of any country because the murder investigation is in its early stages. The guy hasn't been charged in Ireland because he fled the country, so they were unable to charge him formally with murder. So it appears this arrest is, it could be unrelated to the murder of Jamey Carney. We don't know. Investigators would only be in a position to request a suspect's arrest in another country if the investigation had reached a stage of charges being approved by the Director of Public Prosecutions against that person. So the Irish police are still waiting for confirmation that it is actually their guy, the main suspect in the Jamey Carney murder, and on what basis he was arrested. Are they cooperating with the Irish police? Is that why they arrested him? So that he could eventually be handed over and extradited back to Ireland? Or could it be he was arrested for another unrelated issue? Now, let's be real. Many of these men, military-age men, who are coming across the border, these countries that have unprotected borders, as was the case not too long ago here in the US, they have convictions and, criminal background in their own country. They have arrest records and warrants and charges and convictions, criminal records in their home countries. And they're coming across the border unvetted. So it wouldn't surprise me if he did have a criminal background in Jordan, because clearly this is a very, very violent man. So Ralph Regal of the Irish Independent said the following about extradition. No extradition treaty exists between Ireland and Jordan, meaning he would have to return voluntarily to the state. Just to underline the level of difficulty involved, there is an extradition arrangement in place between Jordan and the United States. Now, the United States is a major donor, both in terms of military and economic aid to Jordan. But even with that extradition treaty in place, the Jordanian courts are very, very reluctant to extradite their citizens to the US. It's very much operated on a case-by-case basis to date. The only major extraditions that have taken place involve terrorism offences, which clearly in Ireland's case, this does not involve that. Mr. Regal continued that because the suspect had left Ireland by the time Miss Carney's body was found, Gardaí were at a huge disadvantage. Once you leave the jurisdiction, it makes the Garda task much more difficult. But again, the lack of an extradition process makes it very difficult in terms of what alternatives are actually there to see this individual brought back to Ireland, and if this is the individual that they want to charge, how will he face justice? Wow. So still a lot of unanswered questions, a lot of uncertainty. I hope Jordan cooperates in every way possible. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video. And a huge thanks to all of those who have hyped my videos. It is greatly appreciated.